Well, this is a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to talk about my work, and we thought we'd have a workshop, but then we thought, I'm not handing out knives to people. Shane thought that would be a little bit dangerous, so rather than hand out knives to people, maybe I'll do a little carving project towards the end. But I just thought I'd bring some examples and talk about different styles and different techniques of carving for you. And of course, answer any questions about what I do, and you can tell me what some of you do.
Turn it on first, Michael.
Is it working? Testing.
I forgot to turn it on is the problem.
That's all right. I've done that before.
Okay,
And I feel just like I'm on Meet the Press or something. So how many of you have done wood carving before? Anybody?
What?
Wood carving. Have you done some wood carving? Is that why you're here? And would...
I have questions to ask.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm here for. And I will make up any answer that suits you. How's that? Because I'm not necessarily an expert, although I've done many, many kinds of carving, and I've been carving since, I think I cut my first finger when I was 7. So since then, you know, I tried to slice off a branch in the woods and went home bleeding. So once I learned how knives work, it was a lot easier. There's a sharp side.
So that's the reason I carry super glue in. Works real good.
Sometimes it depends how big of a saw or how big of a thing you're using.
It burns.
Well, I suppose a lot of you are familiar with carving or whittling, which is you take a small object. I think I brought a small object in here, and a small block of wood and a penknife and start cutting. Maybe you watch guys on the old westerns, they just sitting with a stick sharpening pencils or whatever it is they're doing while they're waiting for the stage. But you know, you could do some very fun things with just a pocket knife. The only problem is you got to have a sharp pocket knife. Now, after that, I've used a chainsaw, I use table saws, I use band saws, I use all kinds of power equipment as well as my knives to carve. It just depends on the scale. And then, here we go. Come on in. We're going to start over. Here's Johnny.
I didn't have a watch.
You didn't carve?
I forgot.
You didn't carve a watch?
I didn't.
Come on, we'll give you half a table.
I had a real one and I forgot it.
Yeah. Well, right now, I'm just introducing myself and projects, and we're going to talk about different projects. So, would you I didn't even say who I was. My name is Michael Yankowski, and I teach art at Northwestern State University. Not necessarily wood carving, I teach all kinds of art there. But I do a lot of carving for my personal artwork, which I exhibit in exhibitions, and I have a gallery in New Orleans that shows my work. So I've got some credibility. I studied carving in Chattanooga to carve carousel animals. I studied carving in Austria with some master carvers, and I studied totem pole carving in Ketchikan, Alaska for a couple of weeks. So I've done a lot of different things with my carving, but it's not strictly carving that I do with my own work. But if you go to my website, michaelyankowski.com, you can see all kinds of good
Do you
stuff.
have a card?
Yes, I'll give you a card, yes. Now this is Mr.
Roy.
Roy Parfait, and he's from, where are you from?
I'm from Dulite, Terrebonne Parish,
Terrebonne Parish.
Houma, Morgan City.
And he specializes in, looks like animal, wildlife sculptures, small animals. So we have really two different approaches, yeah.
I'm from Dulite, Terrebonne Parish.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Morgan
Here in
City,
Louisiana,
Houma,
okay.
down the
I'm
bayou.
from Texas, so I don't know.
Down the bayou,
Okay.
way in the bayou.
So we didn't really plan this. We said that we would get together and present together, but we don't have like a dog and pony show or anything like that. So I guess we can just talk about our work a little bit and then answer questions. As I said, we thought about having a workshop, but then thought a lot of knives would not be a good idea, especially if we had small children. You know, just you guys have your own knives, you can do it at home. So anyway, well, let's see. I'm going to start since I'm set up already, and you can relax a minute. I want to show you something that I just started doing. As I said, I did a little carving in Alaska. I went up to study about the Native Americans in Alaska, so I learned a little bit about their form, the style of their art, more about how they design their work, but we also did some relief carving. And I worked with a fellow named Nathan Jackson, who was working on a totem pole at the time. And the totem pole that I didn't help. I took an axe and I hit it a couple times, but it's in the Smithsonian now. It was part of their Native American exhibit. But I did do this little block, and this is called a relief carving, where you take little chisels and score it and pull it out. And Mr. Downs teaches printmaking. You could take an ink roller and ink it up and print it, but this is just a relief carving to hang on the wall. I carved, I think, like an Eskimo paddle, a canoe paddle also. But this is I'm going to show you a little bit different kind of carving that I just started doing this summer. My children went to the beach for a week and they said, Dad, you're going to be bored because we're going to go sit on the beach and you're going to be crazy. So why don't you try something, you bring a hobby. So I looked online and I got into something called chip carving, and I'm kind of excited about it because it's really a simple technique that just takes, like any kind of carving, patience. So even though it's not particularly, I don't want to say it, how do I say it? The designs are all geometric. I started with a compass and a protractor to make the designs. But then you just go at it with a special knife and you, whittle by whittle, you take away the wood. And after maybe 20 hours, you end up with a plate or a platter. And the plate or platter, I purchased that. You can buy that online. There's user groups. There's websites, there's a guy who goes around the country teaching this process. But I thought it was kind of neat because some beginner people, I'm talking people into trying it. I mean, it's more exciting than a bar of soap, although I would start with a bar of soap if I were you. But it's a neat thing, it's called chip carving. So that's my latest thing. I'm going to do a couple pieces for the faculty art show this year at Northwestern. But let's see, what else can I talk about? I've done some small figures, like Roy has done. These are just little birch. What's the name of the Peter Rabbit, the author of Peter Rabbit? I can't remember. Bertram? Beatrice Potter. Yeah, I knew it would come to you. I knew it would come to you. Well, I did. These are posters for a bed that I carved. So they're the 4 posters for a child's bed that I carved. So it's like Mrs. Porcupine or whatever her name is, and little rats and mice. So their figures, they're just a little bit based on cartoons, basically, from the book that my granddaughter read. But sometimes my stuff gets a little bit out there. I was experimenting with boxes, and I started to think about different kinds of boxes. This is a popcorn bag box, but I've made glove boxes, hat boxes, even shoe boxes, so it looks like a shoe or it looks like a hat. But these are boxes that I create, and then I carve over the surface of the box to make the details. So this involves carving, but it also involves...
Did you carve the popcorn?
Yes, yeah. Well, but, with the Dremel, it's called power carving if you're going to cheat and use a Dremel tool. It's any way you can remove the wood. Sometimes I use a nail file, or sometimes I use a chainsaw. It just depends on the scale.
But that looks so real.
Yeah, that's the fun. That's the fun. Can you tell what this is supposed to be? I don't know. People have a hard time guessing. It's a socks box. A socks box. I just thought it was. I had to make it because it sounded so funny. Socks box. But it's kind of a neat walnut piece. So I think I made about 10 of these kinds of boxes. I have a lot of pictures if you want to see later of them. But you can use any kind of tool you want. And you get these weird kind of connections. I remember watching a movie one time when I was a kid, and a guy in prison carved a gun out of a bar of soap, and put shoe black on it, and then he escaped. I thought, when you're 6, that's pretty cool. So I have carved things with ivory soap. I do teach a class at Northwestern, and sometimes we'll carve soap, just because it's an easy thing to get started, and you don't need a really, a big expensive knife to do it. You can do it with a $2 pen knife. So, and it shows you the very simple things. Some of the things that I do with large objects like carousel animals, the concept is the same. It's just bigger. The idea of and I know that you do this. You see a profile view, you see a top view, a side view, and then you just kind of come in until they all meet. This is a standard technique. So you can learn the technique with the bar of soap and carve a fish in a couple of hours, whereas if you did it in wood the first time, it might take you several days of frustration and cut fingers, and what you'd learn was, I don't like to carve. But if you can have success with a bar of soap in a couple of hours, okay, that was pretty easy. Maybe next time I'll try something in a soft wood, or maybe next time I'll try something with a stone even. But starting simple with a material that's not going to hurt you with a sharp knife, and you get results fast, you learn a lot quicker, I think. So, I mean, I've had people, one of my mentors, Bill Bryant, he did his soap carving like a lot of people did in the 50s with the Cub Scouts. When I was a Cub Scout, we did this. And he still has his bar of soap in a cabinet. It's just like, it looks like ivory. It's all old and yellow. And he said, yeah, I just kept it. I had to keep it. You know, just be careful, put it in a box. What do you have to say about carving? We can jump back and forth.
Well, I started by myself in 1979, and just something I wanted to do. My brothers could draw and do everything else. I couldn't do anything, so I started carving. But I've been doing it for a long time, and I've been lucky. I've been traveled to France 3 times with my carvings. Been to the Smithsonian twice, and I've been doing the Jazz Fest for 37 years.
Wow.
And everything's done by hand. I got me some saws lately, which is, you know, with saws you can take out the bigger part of the wood, gives you more time to carve what you want. But because generally I just cut this out on a bandsaw, and then from here I'll draw a center line. These are the different stages. I draw a center line and start carving, and this is willow, and this is my little raccoon I come out with. I can't get willow anymore. All the funeral homes get the willow for their coffins, so it's hard to get. But I get this butternut from Townsend, Tennessee, and this is my St. Francis. This is what I'm working on. Now this is a piece of oak, but it's only the only carving that I'll do with a piece of oak because it's so hard. But
It's what kind of wood?
this is oak, but this is butternut. This is butternut, which is really soft, and I just love to carve with it. But these are the different stages. So I'll draw my pattern on a piece of wood, cut it out with a bandsaw, and then I'll draw a center line.
Yeah.
And with the center line, well, you start carving on one side, on the other side, and like this, the body part, the neck. And then I'll draw in, most of my pieces are abstract, like draw in some wings, and then I'll put in some eyes. Lots of time I carve out the eyes, but something small like this, you can use a nail punch and do eyes. And then I start sanding. And the sanding, I do a lot of sanding. I might have about 8 to 10 different coats of sanding, different types, rough, you know, and like a 60, 80, 100, and go up to a 600. And so after it's carved, I'll dip it usually in like the smaller pieces. I'll dip it in a can of regular sealer, sanding sealer. You can use polyurethane. You can use. When I first started, I used a lot of Vaspar varnish. Varnish takes a little longer to seal. To dry. And I have a friend who uses polyurethane, and you'll get the same finish with one coat of polyurethane. And I've used it before. I just think polyurethane kind of looks like a little plastic-like, because you do use it for a deck and it's strong. There isn't anything wrong with it because I've used it, and in a hurry I'll use it. But so that's generally how I do my pieces. Here's a little bunny rabbit. Now this is butternut, and this is buckeye, I believe, from North Carolina. And I do fish, birds, just all kind of small animals. I use teak, mahogany. I have some other pieces on the floor with all different kinds of wood. And this is a piece of cypress. I use basswood for a lot of these. And I've done one for a doctor about 3 feet tall. I don't do too many pieces, but when I started, I actually wanted to do abstract pieces, big pieces. But I got caught going to festivals, and this is what they buy, the little pieces, you know, cheaper pieces. And this is my carving knife. This was handmade by a friend. This is a straight razor. The old metal are real good. It's real good. It holds a good edge. And I've only had a couple of these. But I started with a Barlow knife. For years and years, I used a Barlow knife. And I even have, this is my Panther out of walnut. This is my favorite piece. But I remember when I started, even these, I used a Barlow knife, just a regular pocket knife. And I just loved it. I just loved to carve, and I would use it. And when I wanted to do the eyes or the ears, I used a smaller blade. And this is really, my second carving knives I had made. One man gave me one, so. But I also used this paring knives, old hickory, to take out the bigger part of the wood, because it has a good metal too. But these are just a few of the different pieces. About every 3 years, about every year, I add 1 or 2 new pieces to my line of work. But I just
So when you're
enjoy
making
doing it.
these animals, you would make maybe half a dozen at a time, or you will do one at a time?
What I
or-
do is try to work with 2 pieces at a time. Like I'll cut out 2 blocks of for the little bunnies, and I'll work on one, and I'll work on the other, go back and forth. And usually, just about my whole line, that's usually what I do. And I'll carve all day. I say I'll carve all day. I'll carve all day and all night. I just love it. It's a passion, and that's mainly why I don't. Well, I've never used the other power tools, because even though this is a lot of wood, with these folding tools, what they call rotary tools, you can take out this wood in no time. I don't mind doing it by hand, but I did get me a folding tool not too long ago. It's still in the box. I got me one years ago, and I don't know where it went. It stayed there. But since now I'm doing it more, I want to do it a little faster. I say faster, get the waste off faster, but you still have to carve it by hand. You know, do the, like in the feet, in between the feet and the ears. You have to do this. Well, I know some people they're good enough to do the decorative duck carving, and they're good enough to be able to do something like this with their tools. Now me, I probably knock off the ears, so I have to throw it away. So I just take my time and do it, but I enjoy doing it, so I just do it that way.
How many hours would you spend on that little?
Years ago, I had about 6 hours in one of these, and that's the only time I ever maybe looked at the clock to say, but even my smallest pieces, I have small pieces, $15, and I probably have a day's work in those, and I sell them, little buffaloes, little ducks, you know, and I might have close, probably a day, I'm sure a day's work with the carving and the sanding and then the sealer, yes. But I've used just all kinds of wood. I just love to do it. I do fox, like with the fox, I'll use a cedar, which is red, or mahogany, and my little raccoon's kind of brownish like, and I do different birds and fish.
Do you find some woods just uncarvable? That you just
Well,
wouldn't mess with that
yeah,
at all
like this.
because-
Oh, this is the only thing I'm going to do in oak, because you really can't carve this. I hear of people carving in oak, but it might be a different kind of oak, you know, because this is
Can it
really
split?
hard.
Does it split the oak? Does it split?
It's really hard to carve. It doesn't split that much. It's just hard to cut into with a knife.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm probably
Oh yeah.
break it.
Yes, yeah. Like there's some
Instead of having
cypress.
a sharp knife, I probably want
Yeah,
more
there's
fine or
some cypress. So what you have to do is find a nice cypress. Like you have a select cypress where there's hardly any grain. And then you can have a number 1, which is real good. They make shells, you know, that looks real good. And then a number 2 cypress, it'll split, it'll have knots, you know, cracks and all that. So you select your wood.
Yeah.
Do you have a source for your wood, or do you go walking through the woods?
I pick a lot of cypress back home. But there's Townsend, Tennessee, just out of Gatlinburg, 15 miles. There, I would get basswood, butternut, walnut, buckeye, and I'm afraid that now there's a bug or a fungus that got into the walnut, and I was there in December. Their shells were about empty, where I used to go every year in October, and I would fill up my back seat and my trunk with wood, with blocks, what I use. And now they hardly have any walnut. The shelves are about empty. Well, I was there in May, and the shelves are about empty. And they say they can't get the wood anymore, you know.
Gosh.
So I'm glad all these years I've been going over there, I've been collecting. And whenever I go somewhere, if I travel around to a different state, I look for a lumberyard. And once I was in Santa Fe, well, I used to go to Santa Fe, but I'm ready to come back, and I have a 2x4 cypress that says "Slap New Orleans" on there. This was walnut, I mean, a 2x4 piece, you know, which is simple, but I knew it was a good piece of walnut I could use, you know. This is what I used. And there's a African black walnut. It's like a walnut, it's a little darker than this, but it has dark streaks in it. It's a beautiful wood, and it's even a little softer than walnut, because this is a hard wood. I'll do 2 of these in about 8 days, you know, with my knife, all by knife. But I'm talking about 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day.
So you watch a lot of TV?
I listen to my oldies, the old rock and roll. Yeah, TV's there, but usually it's on the music channel. I listen to my old rock and roll.
You don't play games with your Game Boy?
I don't have one of those. I don't have a computer. Well, I have a computer. It's not set up because I'm too busy carving.
It's a time thing. I think that's one thing you have to just decide. That time is what you're... When you walk away from a video game, what have you got at the end of 6 hours on a video game? You know, tired eyes and your thumbs are really well exercised, but after that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I did this when I was little.
I have an antenna for TV, and I'm not a TV watcher.
No, I don't watch.
But when we were younger, I remember going to school as a 5th grader with a pocket knife in my pocket, and everybody played mumbly peg at the break or whatever we did, and now the kids don't know anything about it.
No.
I mean, I teach at Northwestern,
expel you.
and that's right.
They
They
would
expel you, and they don't know how to spend their time not watching TV or not being on the computer. Just to sit down and play with something, it's a hard concept for them to grasp. So when I teach, and these are 18-year-old kids that I work with, that's what we try to get back to. Hey, let's just calm down and enjoy the time, enjoy the creative process and the richness that it brings to your life, besides just Googling or watching television programs and things like that. And I guess we were blessed that we didn't have TV when we were younger to distract us when we were 5, 6, 7 and learning.
Well, the other thing I do, still do, we had the Mennonite church who came down home, and we started a little carving club. And the man, I remember coming here, I was here to probably 1978, 79, and he stayed home. He was buying our craft, our Indian craft. And we had palmetto hats, fan, basket dolls, Moss dolls. And he stayed for 2 years, and when he left, they made me volunteer co-op manager. And I'm still doing that. used to go to the Jazz Fest. Actually, I put aside a lot of my carvings so I could do this for our co-op. And I would have baskets and dolls, dozens and dozens to shows. And here, most of the people, we have cypress baskets also, bull guns, with, you know, a variety of things our Indian people used to do, traditional things. And most of our elderly people are gone, and I hardly have any more palmetto items or moss items. So a lot of these are my own pieces now. I have a couple of my brother's pieces, maybe a couple of my cousin's pieces, and one or two other pieces. But we had moss. I also here, you know, the moss item, palmetto items, cypress baskets, but most of the people are gone. Like Mr. Cyril, who used to make, and that was traditionally in his family. His family would make. They were known for making cypress baskets, and he died about 12 years ago. He was about 95, 96. Miss Marie, who made the Moss dolls, she was about 93, 94, but she's always done this, you know. And she was teaching her daughter. She taught her daughter and granddaughters. We taught in school for 3 years. We taught wood carving and palmetto weaving. But I can tell you, the kids get back home, it's the TV or, you know, because it does take time, you know, this or the palmetto weaving, you know, it takes a lot of time. And most of it is carried on in the family. You know, it's hard to get somebody from the outside. And it's just that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions so far? Anybody? I see you have a carving with you. Did you do that carving? That carving right there?
Yes.
Could you pass it up so we could look at it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The young girl told me it was 1 o'clock. She said,
Oh.
I don't have a watch, and actually I didn't think it was that late. So I want to thank her for having
This
me.
is done with a scroll saw
Oh, okay.
and glued.
And this is
And it's basswood.
basswood.
And then I have started that, and I
This is
don't know
very
how
nice.
to do the eyes,
This is nice.
Yeah.
but it's basswood.
Yeah, I do one of those. Well, actually, I do one about 9-10 inches, and I do one a foot long. Yeah, I carve out
Is
the
it?
eye.
Yeah.
That's what I say. You know, I use my
Yeah.
draw a pencil line.
There's a way to cheat though. I found a tool, and I didn't bring it. It's a tube, and you could probably make
I was
it.
getting there ready to.
You take a piece of maybe a tubing, I don't know,
Yes,
aluminum
yes.
or copper tubing, and grind
Yes.
the edge out. So you
Yes.
sharpen the edge, and then you, like a punch, you punch it into the hole, and it makes a nice round shape.
I don't see and I don't hear too
Yeah, well, there you go. You gotta see, but this is just put in with,
Oh, okay.
and they sell a
I see.
mechanical
Yeah,
setup that you punch it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about the nail punch. With these small holes, you know, with the
If
nail
it's just a
punch.
hole, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you
Yeah.
press it in and it goes in.
But this makes an actual round
Yeah.
ball that you can
Mhm.
paint. So
Yeah.
look at
And-
that.
and that's
This
good.
is really nice. I
It
mean, a lot
is,
of
yeah.
sanding up, but
I love my dolphins too. I love to do those.
where do you get your basswood?
I went to a club. I went and took lessons in a club in
Oh.
Longview, Texas.
I see.
And of course, they have their wood carving festival in November, I think, each year. And there's always someone there to
So,
sell.
Oh, there's a lot of there's these duck carvers show down home.
But I like tools.
oh, yeah. You're in the right place.
Yeah.
Tools.
I like tools too.
Yeah, down home they use a lot of Tupelo gum. I have a big duck that's out of Tupelo gum. It's really a nice carving wood, but you have to use the first 6 feet because the top part is really hard. They use it for fine furniture, but it's really extra hard.
I have some other tools that I would show you. You're pretty much
Oh.
a one tool. Can I see your knife?
Yeah.
I wanna
But,
see if
but
I
I
can
love
shave with
chisels, gouges. Those are great tools. That's what you have.
To me, the more important than the knife is the sharpening.
Oh,
Because
oh,
if
yeah,
you don't
oh.
get it sharp, it's no fun.
But sharpening is an art too, I believe.
Yeah,
Some people really know how to. I just have to take a lot of time, but I take my time and do it till I get it the way I want.
Uh-huh.
But sharpening to me is an art. Is an art also.
Yeah.
See that I never learned to sharpen my knives.
I don't even. You know, that's what I'm saying. I work at it till it's sharp. You know, but I don't know how to sharpen knives like
When I
some
would-
people. You know.
When I would go to class, it would be a gentleman there, he could sharpen my knife.
That's what I'm
for me.
saying, right? Yeah, there are some people.
When I went to study in Austria, they spent an afternoon just on sharpening. This is how
Oh.
you do it. You do this, and even after watching the lecture and talking to the guy, it's not easy. I still have a hard time.
No.
And I'm always learning new tricks about it. But I did find that a ceramic stone. So they make these new things, and they come in various grits of super fine, and you basically go through that whole thing of ceramic stones, and then even I think I was using 1200 grit sandpaper as one of the polishing.
Oh, that's good.
And of
yeah.
course, finishing off with a strop. Do you
Right.
strop your knife?
Oh yeah.
You have to do this. This
Yeah.
polishes it. Now this is a chip carving knife that I just purchased. I think these are $50 just for the knife. It's a one-trick pony. All it does is cut those little shapes in that knife. I mean, in the chip carving. But this is another knife that I found. It's called the Whittling Jack, and I don't remember the brand who makes it, but it's a two-bladed pocket knife. And when you buy this thing, I mean, it's razor sharp when you buy it, and they say don't even bother trying to sharpen it.
Oh wow.
Ever. Don't sharpen it.
no.
All you want to do is strop it,
And
and that's it. It
And
holds
that's
the.
that.
It's called a Whittling Jack. If you Google that, you'll find it. Of course, we don't use the internet, but it comes with two blades, and it's very, very sharp. I mean, it's as sharp as what you have, maybe even sharper. And
Oh,
the
probably.
steel is so fine, surgical steel, that
Yeah.
it was going to hold that edge. And I'm afraid if I ever took it to a stone, I'd probably ruin it.
Yeah.
So the best thing is just keep it in shape by stropping
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah.
you know,
This
after
my
every
my
hour.
buddies swear by that. They say sharpen your knife, then every once in a while use it. Even when you're carving, say
Yeah.
you'll never have to sharpen your knife again if
Yeah.
you use that,
Ooh, look at that.
the leather strap. You know.
Yeah, I use the green polishing compound
Mhm.
on mine.
Yeah.
I do have a
You can tell it hadn't been sharpened, it hadn't been ground down much.
Beautiful. Well, if you go online, of course, I keep saying don't go on the computer, but everything's there. They show you microscopic views of what angle to hold it and how to,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
what
yeah.
it should look like at different stages. This is
Yeah,
nice
that
knife.
means a lot.
Beautiful knife.
Yeah. That's where you can learn.
Yeah.
Now, that's the problem I have. I bought a set of standard carving knives one
Mhm.
time. Boy, I tell you what, I couldn't carve anything, but I guess the bevel was wrong. And trying to get it right now, I can sharpen the knife. I mean, I can get it just on stone, you know, sharp enough to shave the hair on your arm.
Mm.
But then with the strop, I mean, I can get it razor sharp. But
Right.
then those knives, I've worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and finally got them down to where I could take a piece of oak or some kind of hardwood and it's starting to cut better.
Yeah.
Still got the work to do on it, you know, to get it
If
Get
it's,
it right,
if
so
it's
the
not the
bevel
right kind of
is-
steel, it depends if they were cheap
Yeah.
knives to
Yeah,
begin with. If the
true.
steel is cheap, they look like a knife, but they aren't. I know that these chisels, these are expensive German chisels, and they are, you know, $75 for one
Yeah.
chisel, but they're made to do this. These are professional. When you have one knife, which I admire that you do that with one or two knives.
Well, yeah, a couple of knives.
But when I went to Austria and they were carving life-size statues and things, this is master carvers, and I said, if I could get one chisel, what should I get? And the man said, if you can get one chisel, don't bother. Don't bother carving. And then he opened up a suitcase full of all of his chisels. That was his getting another chisel, because each one has a different, a V cut or
Right,
hook cut or
shape,
a
yeah.
round cut or whatever. Of course, they're carving like this with a mallet, big.
Yeah.
big
Oh, I
pieces.
would love to do
Yeah,
that.
big pieces.
I would
But
love
don't
to get that.
one knife, forget it. Don't bother. That's what he
Yeah,
said.
I've looked at, I've never used the gouges, other than maybe a little small, cheap one I can get at Hobby Lobby or something, you know, just to make a little, like, hair on a mustache or beard or something, and small stuff. But, looking at them, I can't determine, I was going to talk to somebody in the know about, are the straight chisels or gouges like that better, or the little palm gouges curved? You know, there's a lot of questions out there, and I guess it depends on what
you're
using
carving and what the
are.
scale is.
Yeah.
Look at this knife.
Yeah.
This is a round gouge here, and it's equivalent to this thing I just showed you. Whoops. Yeah. But it's just tiny. You know, and you have to think about the scale, how much wood you're going to pull out with this, and this is like shaving a toothpick kind of a knife. It's a different.
And that's what I do. I like most of my little carvings. I've got an affinity for making. I may make a little animal, say a bear, that's that long, you know, stand up about that tall. Of course, I don't do that much detail as far as hair and stuff like that.
Right,
It's similar to what
yeah,
you got. But
I do small.
my little gnomes and stuff that I may make one, you know, well, maybe that tall is about my biggest one, but then I've got some made on toothpicks, you know, and, you know, so I've got an affinity for miniature, tiny stuff, and I'll usually start out with what I would consider my normal size and, you know, work my way down just to see how small I can get it.
How are your eyes? How long are you
I take my
going to
glasses
be
off
able
to
to
see
do
it.
that?
I actually take my glasses off where I can see. You
I have to
know.
get bigger and bigger
But,
scale because I'm getting more and more blind, so it's hard to do the tiny.
But you know, doing just my normal size animals like his raccoon there is probably about 3 times the size of what I consider normal for me. You know, I just like smaller stuff, and I think it's, you know, I don't know, people see small stuff and, oh, that's real neat.
Yeah.
I have a couple of little duck and a little buffalo.
Yeah, that's about the size of the stuff
I love
that make.
these.
Yeah.
I don't use it much, but I love those. You know,
Yeah.
I've done dugouts too. You know, like round
Yeah, right.
dugouts, like traditional dugout. And I have a pirogue.
Yeah.
Well, I say a pirogue. It's actually a dugout too. You know,
Right.
but I love these tools. You know.
Yeah.
They cut. They'll cut your hand too. Oh, I cut myself one time. I showed my sister. I thought she was gonna faint. You know. I just wrapped it up and
Yeah.
Kept that going.
Just
go
go
back to
on.
it,
Super
yeah.
glue, go. Super glue.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
the nice thing about those small sculptures is that you have a pocket knife and a little piece of wood in your pocket. I mean, you could sit at the mall and carve while your wife's shopping, or you could be sitting at and of course you leave little trails of chips around, but it's just nice because it's something you can do rather than smoke a cigarette or be bored.
And you know, and that's where I started, you know, with just a little pocket knife. When I was a little kid, like I say, you know, when you were, you know, 7, 8, 9 years old, you had a little pocket knife carried around. I was raised on a farm, you know, and I always had a pocket knife. And I'd sit and just whittle. Well, that's what my great granddad did.
Yeah.
He'd take cedar shakes and sit on the porch and whittle. You know, just make little figures, you know, and spoons and forks, and then one of my favorite. It got to where when we would take the kids on mission trips and things of that nature, I'd always pick up. I'd sit and I'd whittle on a walking stick. I'd maybe just the date and the place, like Taos, New Mexico, you know, and carve out Taos. Well, the best little carving knife I've ever had, as far as that, was just a little pocket knife, $5 at Walmart. Had a real sharp little point on it, you know, it's a little 2-blade pocket knife. And now, on a lot of my smaller stuff that I'm doing in harder woods, I just use X-Acto knives.
Oh, sure.
And, you know, but the gouges and stuff like that, I've been kind of, as to whether or not, what do I need to get? I want to get some, and like I say, they're very expensive to get good stuff.
And it, you know, but I think it has more to do with the scale.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do something,
I know they've got the macro. I think Romelson has the macro sets that are, I think, would be more.
like this,
Similar like
this
that,
came as
yeah.
a set, I don't know what the maker
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a micro, this is the
Yeah,
set you're
yeah,
talking about.
and that's probably about the size that I would need. You know? But eventually, I want to get into something a little bigger.
What are these?
You know, what I think about the carving is
What are
it's
these?
also unique.
Slam.
I mean, it's the person's
Ooh, nice.
Whoopsie.
Oh,
daisy.
these
You're
are,
in trouble
these
action or
are
something.
really nice.
That's not
Yeah,
good.
well,
That already
yeah.
pulled out. I
Extracts
tried to pull
are-
the
You-
thing
yeah,
off of it.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because
Well,
I have a
apparently-
beaver, you know, it doesn't have any
Just
eyes.
put some
and-
glue in it, I guess.
And then my buffalo, well, I have a small one, but I've done some big ones.
Well, I don't know how
But
you.
once I
broke
put
it.
turquoise eyes
I
in
guess I
it,
They're-
broke it.
they didn't go. People didn't want, you know. I said, oh, here's a neat idea, you know, put turquoise eyes in it.
yeah,
It's pretty
People
sharp.
didn't care for them.
yeah.
V-gouges are really hard to sharpen.
But gouges,
But this is sharp.
like I say,
Yeah.
I'm only
This-
using
Well,
it
I
a few
had-
times with
it's like I said,
mainly
it's
the
a joke
dugouts, you know,
there,
P-roll.
and
Yeah.
he made his own.
Because when I first started, I dug them out with a knife.
And
And one
You have to
piece, I
put
left
your
the seed in
the
there.
camera, yeah.
Huh?
There's a
I used to
camera
work
behind you.
offshore,
Oh,
and we used to run to the Bahamas, Puerto
You
Rico,
got the back of your head
and
good.
you know the boat would be on automatic pilot. Now here I am, I have a pirogue, and so I carve in the seat. I said, how do people make money like that? You know, the pirogue with the seat.
Mhm.
You know, because I had to cut under. Now I've learned that you just dig it out and carve 2 little pieces of wood and put the seat in. So the first 2-3 pirogues I did, I had them at home. My cousin said, and I had finished one. He said, "Oh, that's really nice." I said, "You like that?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Here." I didn't think I was gonna get anybody for all that work, so he appreciated it. I said, "Well, here." But pirogues sell real good, you know. And like I say, it's more simple to dig out the bottom and then just put 2 little pieces of wood. You learn.
When I did this piece, we're just talking about gluing up pieces. This is a full-size carousel horse. Okay.
Oh.
And it took me a year and a half to make it, but it's glued up from 2x6s of basswood. So when you see it unpainted, it's glued up with lumber like this. So you would glue up just this width of the thickness of the head and cut out a profile of the head, exactly like you're doing there, but it's just a bigger scale, and then
Right.
the thing is clamped in and you're pushing really hard. You're not whittling, you're carving now. So you get a completely different scale to it, but it's really the same process.
Mhm.
And
Right.
the whole idea, and again, this, if you saw this, each leg is 2 or 3 pieces of wood, and they're pegged with 1-inch dowels to hold it together, and you have to account for the change of grain. See, a little thing like that, you were talking about snapping off the ears. All that has to be accounted for, and when the grain changes and when you peg it. But it's the same concept. It's just subtractive carving, the scale is just a matter of how much you got big muscles and you're pushing, or a little tiny knife. You can't carry this around to the mall while your wife's shopping either. I mean, you know, you're sitting there and it's in a place, you can't move it. That's where you have to work every day, and it's all different techniques. So I guess the nice thing about carving is you can do it any way you like,
Yeah.
and there's a niche for all of those.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to market it and sell it, or you're going to just do it for your own enjoyment.
And different kind, because I was saying how what I would do. Well, I'm going to use that rotary tool sooner or later. But some guys, you know, they do these decorative ducks. They get money for them, and they can carve the feathers with those rotary tools. You know, we're talking about real thin feathers. You know.
And another good tool
detail them all.
is a wood burning tool.
Yeah, they use that a
actually
lot.
burn the
They-
feathers.
right.
And
Those are
it's
good.
much better than even these
Yeah.
chisels. So those tiny pyrographics is the technique, but you're actually burning in hairs, single hairs with it. So. Do we have any questions? Some people are just coming in for the second half, but we could just keep on going, I guess. There's not going to be any difference. What else can we talk about? How many of you have carved? Please raise your hand. So everybody's tried it. Have you carved before, sir? No? You want to start? You ready to start?
I want to say also, I've been to a carving school, Campbell Folk School in that Brasstown, North Carolina. They have all kinds of craft, and it's really something. And the people there, you know, is together with the people. It's just great. You stay there weekend or a week, but it's worth it. Yeah, that's really nice.
I discovered another really nice source for wood carving, and that's the library. I don't know, I do a lot of stuff on the internet, but I just found this at the Natchitoches Public Library. It's the only book that they happen to have, but I checked and I saw it and, hey, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And then inside, they had a whole chapter on,
Yeah.
on polishing and a whole thing on varnishes and a whole unit on which knives to get and how to sharpen your knives. When I studied in in Alaska, I must have bought half a dozen books on the style and techniques. So I was hoping that there'd be some younger people here. I see one young lady.
You don't see too many of those in libraries, because I love the libraries and Books and Nobles,
Yeah,
and
now, but
Books a Million, Barnes and Noble.
this is my carousel teacher. I went to Chattanooga to learn how to do it, and he actually wrote this book. But it goes through step by step how the heck to do it. I did this. I can't see the big full-size lion that I have in my living room. But the books. Sometimes my students, I'm going to compare to students, they think they know it already and they won't research it. But when I get into something, that's the first thing I want to do.
And you want to build up the library.
I want to look at pictures. I want to talk to other carvers.
Exactly.
I want to see what everybody's trying.
Build up
and
the library.
the groups, like you said, the carving club, and you went to a carving club or a workshop.
Yes.
That's real important, just to talk to technique. Because sometimes it's as simple as, how did you hold your knife? How did you do that one little thing that's been bugging me?
Yeah, that's what I tell my friends. You go to a class, you go over and over, and then one little thing will carry you a long way,
Yeah.
It means a lot.
I haven't carved in probably 10 years or more because I broke my little finger and I didn't have the grip. But we started out and we marked like you did there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very important to me.
Well, again, you start with a profile. That's what you always do, right? You
But
got to have
yeah.
that profile.
Doing the research and having the patterns on paper was, I had to have it.
Yes,
I mean, that was
but
a
that's not,
necessity.
you make it sound like that's a bad thing. I can't carve it, that's like I can't draw a straight line with a ruler.
I-
So nobody can draw a straight line without a ruler. That's what it's for.
Yeah,
So-
right.
So sometimes students want to jump ahead and say, I'll just grab that knife and start carving. And if
Yeah.
you do it the way it's been taught for a couple thousand years, it works. If you try to go away from that, you're going to be struggling.
My mother, I remember when I was a kid, she taken some cedar wood and she carved out her wooden spoons for the kitchen.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my mother. And then she got into and she only had a little pocket knife. And believe it or not, I have that little pocket knife. But she wore an apron and she had that pocket knife in that apron pocket.
She was probably carving apples and everything else with that thing.
Yes, but she carved windmills.
Oh,
She had windmills sitting all over the fence posts.
Yeah. I had an uncle near New Orleans. He used to work on ships, but he would carve, like the big steering wheel, not that, he wouldn't carve the big one, but he carved a small one you could use on boat. And I have an uncle down the bay. He did the same thing too. He carved his own, just like you see the big one, except small. And he just carved it out with a pocket knife,
you can be talking and working at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Tried soap.
This
I
is
have
just a
never-
bar of iron soap.
I-
It's really fresh. I just bought it yesterday. And it makes a difference. I have students that bring in a bar of soap that they got at the local little C&C, the convenience store out in the middle of nowhere, and they haven't had new soap in a year. And that soap is crunchy. It actually crumbles when you carve it. But this is like carving a stick of butter. And it works really easy, but you still have to be gentle. But the nice thing about it is, for a beginner, I can get the technique, the process of removal by, whatever this cost me, 30 cents for a bar of soap. So what if I make a mistake? I'll take a bath. I mean, there's no waste to that, as opposed to you getting some of that expensive wood and you spend a lot of time and you work on a nice piece of walnut and you snap off the ear. Well, then you didn't get fast enough. You didn't learn anything fast enough. So I always make my students do the entire fish. I always start with fish because I can talk about it and draw it on the board. And after they do a fish, then I let them do a turtle or a bird or whatever. But if we talk about a fish, then it's the whole class can be doing it together and I can talk about it. And I make them do, no matter how bad it looks, carve the whole fish all the way through. Even if the tail breaks, then you learn where your next mistakes could be. If you stop, every time you broke the tail, you'll never get farther than the tail. So I always say you got to go the whole thing. So now we start with a profile. That's what you do on a bandsaw. I use a bandsaw to get that profile. But now we have to look at that soap. It still looks like a bar of soap this way. And if I carve the soap like my hand, there's the head, there's the tail, it's going to look like a dead fish. But if I curve it, it's swimming, okay?
Right.
So now what I'm going to, and this is why you can't use an X-Acto knife for this project, because the blades are too short to do scoop the whole thing at one time. I'm going to scoop out the side of that fish, leave more at the head end, but I'm going to scoop out, and with that nice, this is really buttery, it's a beautiful soap. Carve out the whole thing and in one long stroke, not little strokes with a little tiny knife, but you see what I'm starting to get? The curve of that fish to bring it alive. And I can come back this other way and get the tail back in. Easy does it though, you're getting excited. Oh, I'm going to break it because I'm in a hurry. But you see, I'm starting to get that side view.
Could the young girl?
You want to try it? Okay.
Now, I will loan her my knife, or I only have those short-bladed
Okay.
knives.
Well, I'll tell you what. We need to find some space here for you. You want to try it? You ready to try it? Here, take this. I got all soap now. Just set it on this table for me. And we'll get you. You know what you got to have? You have to have newspaper. Because it's soapy and it gets all smelly, and I'll be teaching the class in carving, then Mr. Downs comes in and, oh, there's soap all over my tables. Mr. Downs teaches art at Northwestern also, and he does relief printing. So they take this block of wood that I showed you that's a relief printing, and they actually print the pictures. They work in a different technique. So there's your, now, see this soap, and you can't, Irish Spring, forget it. It's too, it's a little brittle, but it's rounded off, and it, and you know, this smell is gonna be pretty intense in a few minutes, especially if I have a class of 20. But a class of 20 Irish Springs, you can't open, it's just too much. So there you go. There's your thing, and we need a knife. If you're gonna do it in Australia, you use a knife. And I'll let you use this knife, okay, because it's big enough. And you know, you can't really cut yourself with these. You have to really, if you hold the thing and do this kind of work, that's where you're going to slice. But if you have your hand on the knife, you can't cut yourself.
With control
and
all
just
the time.
take your time. So what you want to do is see this fish. I'm going to actually, and you said draw a picture. So I'm going to draw this fish head. That's the head end, and the tail we're going to make it as big as we can, because we can always get rid of it. That's the fin, that's the tail, but the problem is you can't put it back. It's a one-way street. You see that? Look what I'm showing you here. It looks like this. It's a silhouette. So first carve the silhouette. Just straight down carve that silhouette up. So you just do like this. If you want, or you can hold it in your hand, and don't take a big chunk, do a little at a time. Okay. Whittle by whittle, as we say. Okay. I love that joke.
Do you know where you could get big bars of soap?
Well, Ivory does make a bath size. I have not seen it in a pack like this. The reason I have students buy this, because they could get 10 bars for $4 and they can break
The old
them away.
ones would probably
But
be
the
a
old
bigger.
ones, the big bath size at grocery stores, Brookshire's would have it.
Oh.
But Walmart's, they're too funny, they don't want to sell one bar of
Oh.
soap.
Oh.
But places like Brookshire's or Albertsons or something, they would have what they call the bath size. It's about this big.
We've
Oh.
also got the oval side, it's got the
But you're almost,
shape.
yeah, you're cheating.
Curve.
You're cheating then.
Yeah,
You're
that's
messing
for
with
people
me.
that's in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that's good, and I'll show you another technique. If you want to just hold it this way and carve in and kind of notch it like you're doing, but holding it and keeping your knife perpendicular to this surface. So don't go crooked. Keep it perpendicular. So we learn words like perpendicular. We learn vocabulary in art too. And the thing is, this soap is messy. And I've heard of girls, they say, you know, you take a little of the soap stuff and you put it in a nylon stocking and hang it in front of the faucet of your bathtub, and you'll get this beautiful bubble bath. I don't know.
Learn vocabulary.
I never did it, but I was. Now when I taught this class with, I used to teach a class and a lot of men were in it too, some men. And this one fellow came in and he picked up this bar of soap and in a couple hours he had a fish, a white fish. I'm like, holy smokes, how did you do that? How could it be so darn good? And all the ladies are struggling, and he says, well, I fish. And I've caught this perch 100 times, and I've gutted his perch, and I've cut off his head, and I ate the perch, and he says, I know exactly what that fish looks like. He wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
So when we do fish carving or anything, it's all about that source. Look at a picture. You know, look at a picture. If you got a pet squirrel, carve a squirrel, but you got to look at one. Just don't. You can't imagine. I saw a horse one time, because I always say, okay, everybody, carve me a coatimundi. What the heck is that? They say, I got to look at a picture. Yes, go look at a picture of a coatimundi so you can carve it. If I say horse, suddenly you think you know what a horse looks like, and you don't. You don't. You had a question.
Yes. Do they teach a course here at the university? And
well, not really.
Not really.
I teach a design class and we do some carving. We have a sculpture class and they do some carving. They also do plaster carving. But I mean, if you looked at the schedule and took maybe the sculpture, or there's a ceramics class that's a first level class, and that's sculpture that's additive. So instead of taking away the wood, you're sticking together the clay. It's the same kind of thing, but in reverse. Yeah. But so how's it coming? Oh, that's okay. It's only a bar of soap. See, it's only 30. It's only 30 cents. It didn't. I do some things with expensive woods. I have some 50,000-year-old kauri wood that came from Australia, New Zealand, and it's very expensive, and you don't want to mess with it. And this is mahogany, and this is one of those. I don't know if you ever carved a koa nut.
Oh,
that's
nice.
It's an ivory nut. It's called. This is Mother Teresa.
I know what you're talking
But
about.
you know, you can't just get those. So you don't want to screw that up. You don't want to screw it up. But with a bar of soap,
It's carving.
if it doesn't work, I can start over. If it doesn't work, I can start. There's Bill Bryan. You still have your ivory soap fish. You told me that. You said you did it in the 6th grade.
In 3rd grade.
Back in the day, all the Cub Scouts were doing it. Now I'm going to start to pull off some of the detail. You never want to do the detail till the very end. It's like sanding.
Right.
You're going to find the form and gently. I'm in a hurry again. Boy, this soap is almost too soft. It's like carving I don't know what. It has no resistance, and sometimes that's bad. You know, wood has a little bit of fight to it, and you have to work it, and you know it's not going to snap. This is so soft. Now my daughter, I'm of Polish descent, and every Easter we have certain foods that we eat as part of the culture. You saw the guy painting the eggs out there, Pysanka eggs. It's like that. We do these certain things. Well, she will make a lamb out of butter.
Oh.
So that's the centerpiece for the dining room table when you're having rolls or bread, you know. So she'll take a pound of butter, and that's the body. Then she takes 1/4 of a stick and makes it come up for the neck of the lamb and puts a toothpick in it, and then she puts another toothpick to make the head of the lamb coming out, and then she starts going at it with a butter knife, and there's nothing dangerous about a butter knife. And then when she's all done, she takes butter and pushes it through a garlic press, and it makes squirrely hair that she applies to it. So, I mean, if you're carving potatoes, ladies, men, before you put it in the pot, see if you can whittle a fish out of it. And I mean, it's all a matter of practice. So I'm starting to get some of the 3D quality of the fish there, the shapes, individual shapes. And then I'll turn the knife to the back side of the knife and start scraping. It's almost like a spoke shave. I'm pulling off the knife without, I'm not cutting it off anymore. This is so soft. I can just scrape it down, almost like sandpaper, but you guys can't see in the back. You can come and look later. So when I teach this class to my design students, the whole room is full of soap, and we might spend 2 or 3 days on this, just so they get the words down. So when they see a Michelangelo sculpture out of marble, their jaw will drop even further. Because it's not like, oh, he made a statue. It's like, I tried it with soap, and that's incredible. What he did, and it's a life-size hunk of stone. And all I could do is carve a crummy little fish out of a bar of soap. It just makes you appreciate what some master carvers can do. Like Roy here, he's been doing it more than a couple of weeks. Right? How long did you say, since you were 7 or 8?
No, it's just about 1978 I started.
1978, yeah. So it's a fun thing.
But yeah, I'm still learning.
Still, and that's, to me, that's real important, that you're still learning.
Yeah,
some people get to a point and they say, oh, I know everything.
Yeah, you'll do a certain style, so kind of.
If I'm not bleeding, I'm not working. That's what I figure. If I'm not bleeding, I'm not working.
Oh, this is a passion. I say, oh, how long do you work? I said, I don't like to call it work, but just love it.
Yeah. So, well, we were going to have everybody try this with knives, but first of all, we didn't want to buy everybody a knife. And second, we didn't want to have any knife fights break out. But really, if you really want to, you can take a bar of soap and take it home with you. So now I got to decide if it's which side's up and which side's down, because the bottom one's going to have 2 fins, the front fin and the back fin. There's names for those fins, but I don't know what they are. Now here's a nifty little thing. It's starting to look fishy. It's abstract. It's kind of like one of yours. I'm not going to expect it to look.
Yeah,
like
I didn't bring any.
I don't want it to necessarily look like a real taxidermy fish, but if it looks fishish, it's a success. But I'm going to put a gill in here now. This always amazes people. I'm going to see where the top is. I'm just going to carve in a little bit of a indentation, maybe an 1/8 inch deep. You probably can't see that cut. And then I'm going to remove up to the cut. And this somehow, for some reason, amazes people. They say, "Oh, that's how you do it."
If it's a male fish, you have to use lava soap.
So I can actually, but see, the nice thing about this soap is I can get somewhere in a hurry. This would take you several hours, even an experienced wood carver, to get this far. And if we're talking about this idea of subtractive art, this is the technique that's important. And then whether you use ivory or you use soap or you use mahogany or basswood or any other kind of material, the technique is the same. It's just the tools and the time involved. So if you're trying to just teach technique, and this is just quick and dirty and cheap, and you can't hardly go wrong. If I really screw it up, like I said, I'd take a bath or something. So what? So I can, if I have some pictures, I could make it look like a yellow tang or a perch or a whatever it is. So, I mean, it comes along pretty quickly. Is that working for you?
I know a lot of times, if I'm working on a piece of wood, of course, the flaws in the wood, I get frustrated.
This has no grain.
It has no grain to it. And a lot of times when I get frustrated and I'm trying to do something in particular, I'll get on YouTube. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
Chip art, just anything. And I'll just go through there and watch a couple of guys just go through it. And willing, they're fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
They're speeding up the tape. Don't let them fool you. They're speeding up the tape.
Just watching that gives me confidence to go back out there and do what I have. Don't need to get frustrated. You need to learn how to work around the
And you know what? When I do teach this to younger kids, we talked earlier, the concept of time is. And I was young once. I wanted to hurry up and be done. I want to hurry up. I want to hurry up and grow up. I want to hurry up and be, and I slow down. I just don't want to hurry up. If it takes me all day to do this little part, it doesn't matter. I'm satisfied just doing it. And that's a concept for younger people that they're losing. I really think that teaching young people these crafts is really a hope for mankind. Mr. Downs and I are both Luddites. We like computers, but not that much anymore. We did that. And now we just want to paint, or we just want to carve, and we want to not be all savvy and care about that. Because this lady she's hypnotized. She's hypnotized. She's gone, and she'll have fun for the rest of the day with that if I let her. And if you take that home and play with it, that's great. Anyway, I didn't want to hog the conversation, but
This is nice.
Is there any Tupelo gum in this area anywhere? Where would that be found? I know.
I have no idea. I've never tried it. I don't know where you would find it. There's got to be somebody who's got it.
Okay,
somewhere.
not in this area, but where I'm at in Houma, Bird, just 5 miles out of Houma, there's a Kurt Fobb. He goes to the World Championship up in Maryland, you know, and he travels all over. He sells carving supplies, but he sells Tupelo gum. It's gone up lately. It's about $7 a boat foot now. It used to be cheap, but he usually has a good stock inventory. Kurt Fobb. Out of Bird. He's in the book.
That's a good software.
It's a great carving wood. I have one piece, one big duck. It's one piece. I carved the eyes and the of course it's all like abstract, but some of the detail. Carve out the outlines of the feathers. But I have a friend. He's done fish, gators, birds, everything out of Tupelo gum. But it used to be plentiful down home, like in Thibodeau. This man had a lot of land, and we could get it cheap, you know. And there's Riverside lumber in New Orleans. Sometimes they'll have slabs, you know, like that. So if you have a chainsaw.
Where is that?
Riverside in New Orleans East.
What?
On Morrison Road, Reed.
I used to go to Paxton's with.
Yeah, I used to go to Paxton.
Yes,
the hurricane. Yeah. But Riverside is still there, and I haven't been there probably 3-4 years. I don't know if they're probably still together. But you could buy slabs of Tupelo, and it'll be cheap, you know. I would say, now Mr. Fobb, you'll get a nice piece of wood, but you can get just about any size you want. But it's plain, you know, and you can see what you have. And
it was made out of Tupelo gum. It was hard. I was in Tennessee at one time.
You have to get. One man was telling me about the piece he had. But you have to use the first 6 feet, you know, the butt, because the top part is used for fine furniture, and it's as hard as this. As those
Band-Aid may not stick to my
the top is used for fine furniture, but all these decorative wood carvers, and we have some like I live in Terrebonne Parish. Next parish is Lafourche. There's Tambrine. He's world champ 5 times. And his son has taken over now. Well, they have different people now, but they used to go to the championship in Maryland, and there's a lot of good decorative wood carvers, you know, like using the wood burner and paint it. They look like the real thing, you know. They get money for their ducks, but there's quite a few down home, Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish. But Mr. Fobb will sell you, and I think that's F-A-B-R-E, Fobb, Curtis Fobb, and he's usually in the book, phone books with information for them, you know, you can get through information. Now they have a carver show in Mandeville now. It used to be at UNO and at the Alario Center in Marrero. But there's a carver show in Mandeville and one in Houma by the rifle range. And they usually show up with Tupelo gum for sale, you know. And sometimes you can get it real cheap. This place, Pierre Park, this one man used to sell some, and they tell me there's some other people. He's gone, but they tell me there's some other people selling it there in Pierre Park. That's a good way from home, but it's a good ride. You know, you get a few pieces of Tupelo, it lasts you a long time.
I always wondered if any of it came from Tupelo, Mississippi.
Most of it, a lot of it is Louisiana, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, I understand, in the South.
See how narrow it is? It comes this way. So you want to draw this line. Draw this and shape the body of the fish. And start to pull it back up to the line.
Here's, I don't know, they might be able to get it for you. In Ponchatoula, there's a cypress. Well, they sell all kinds of wood, exotic wood too. In Ponchatoula, Louisiana.
Oh yeah, I've been to that one.
Yeah, they might have Tupelo or know where to get it because they have all kinds of wood. They've been in business for a long time. I don't know. Ponchatoula, it's a well-known. They've been there for a long time, you know.
It's kind of like a lumber company.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. They sell all kinds. It has a cypress name in it. Yeah. Now I don't know if they have the Tupelo, but they might. They have quite a lot of wood, and being that they sell so much wood, I'm thinking that they might have it. But Morrison Lumber is in New Orleans East. Riverside on Morrison Road, Riverside in New Orleans. They used to carry it. And what it is cheaper, but it's usually good wood, you know. Now you get to that hard part, you're not gonna be carving any, you know.
What kind of things do you want to carve?
I'm not really wanting any particular piece. I just wanted to know where you could get different woods. Different type woods. Really, not anything in particular.
See this willow? I can't get it anywhere. Funeral homes buy it for their coffins.
Why? Why that wood?
What is it?
Willow. This is willow. This is a great carving wood. Oh, it's great to carve.
It's just willow, plain willow.
Willow. They call it willow. Now there's different kinds of willow, I understand, but the only reason I have it, years ago I got it. This trade school had ordered it from this lumber yard in Houma, and he's been gone. He's dead. He's been gone for a long time. They had a few boards, so he let me have it because the trade school didn't pick it up. So that's the only reason I have these. And when I'm going with these, I don't know where I'm going to get any more. But it's a great carving wood. I love willow too. I love
soft wood.
It's really soft.
Soft.
Oh yeah, it's great to carve. Yes, ma'am.
Why did they put it in caskets? Soft.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's hard enough for you know. It's great to carve, but
Yeah.
but after it's sealed, you know, and everything, it'll last probably a lifetime, you know, because it's regular wood.
What about diamond? Well, you mentioned the last few diamond willow.
Diamond willow.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I've never heard. I didn't know there was that many different kinds of willow.
That's what I mean. There's different kind. Yeah, I don't know what kind this is. Yeah.
Makes it a real pretty diamond pattern.
Yeah, they advertise a lot of carving stick with diamond willow.
Have you done any bark carving?
I have never used the bark, but I know I've been to the Santa Fe market visiting, you know, and they use a lot of the cotton root and bark, you know.
And it was some wood that come from Colorado, the bark, and it gets real thick. The bark is real thick, and I can't explain.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, for the bark, you know, different.
But it's got those streaks up and down, you know. But those streaks, they're just, some of them might be 2 or 3 inches thick. You know?
That sounds good. I like that.
And then they carve these mint.
Oh. Wouldn't
Oh,
that-
yeah, the
Forest.
spirits.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
spirits, like, yeah, right, yeah, I've seen
I've
those.
seen that.
Those are a lot of art, yeah, right.
And,
Those
and
are
each one of those things that's going down, I don't know what you call them, that goes down, you can carve a face on each and that beard on each of
Kind of like
the
cypress wood, cypress.
And I was, that's what I was about to mention. There's
But
this
it's
lady,
not-
she wrote a book on cypress knees, and she
Yeah.
does a lot of faces.
Yes.
With the
yes.
cypress knees.
But,
Is that a hardwood or something?
no, it's not, it's bark.
It's bark.
It's bark. They say the winters in Colorado, the places, it freezes, you know, and it, I don't know how it cures. You know, it gets thick, you know, and I don't know what kind of tree it comes off of. But I've seen that bark and I've seen a lot of it, and it's been fascinating.
Yeah, those are nice. You see those in shop, the figures, like the faces, they call them a lot of spirit on the old man, you know. And the cypress knees, we were able to cut them anywhere down home, you know, because you find them all over. Then they made a law that you could only cut yours if it was on your property. I mean, yours, on your property. You know.
All those cypress knees to get that outer covering off before you can.
Oh yes, you have to peel it.
Peel it off.
Yeah. Peel it. Yeah, there's a bark peel. Yeah, peel
There's
it.
a lot of cypress knees in Sabine Parish and over in that area too.
Mhm.
Whole lot of cypress knees.
Yeah.
This bark, it's gray on the outside, but when you carve into it, it's got layers. And it's kind of red or brown, you know. It's got it's
That's
just
what cypress
beautiful.
is too.
It's fascinating to me.
We see more carvings of the cypress knee around here for sale at Christmas when they do Santa.
Yeah, a lot of Santas.
Yeah, Santas and things where they carve. They're so pretty. Paint them.
Back in the early '60s, everybody had a cypress knee lamp. Down home.
Now they make Santa Claus. They got cypress knee
Carving
Santa
out.
Claus, yeah.
Yeah, with the cypress knee. Yeah, you get a lot of those. Yeah.
There's a lot of them down in Cassachi, all down there on Cassachi Creek and all down there. Lots and lots of.
I had ladies in Texas, they had all the red ears they had. Like this and those all have that.
Well, I'm sure I don't
When I went to, there's two kinds of wood that I want to mention. We talked about different kinds of woods. This is Alaskan yellow cedar. So it's not the kind of red cedar we have down here. It's called yellow cedar, and it's very clean. There's not a lot of knots in it, and it's kind of like pine, but it's carved like basswood, and you can't just get it. Where I got it was somebody had a fire log place, you know, laying on the side of the road, and I stuck it in my suitcase and brought it back. But it's a very clean, what it's called, cypress. And the other thing is Austrian pine. When I went in Austria, it's because of the cold weather. It's like the rings aren't so fat. Louisiana, the rings are thick because they got good long growing season. But when you live in the alpine heights like Austria, each of those layers is a thin layer of growth, and so the wood's a lot tighter, and it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. It's just clean.
I've seen one piece, about a 4x4 at Hobby Lobby, and I bought it. And I never saw any after that. One time.
It's unusual to get.
It looks like a good carving wood. Yeah, like that.
It's
hardly any rain.
It's hard
you know.
and soft, but it's, it doesn't have.
I had read about
sap.
it.
There's no, they call terpenes in it. It's not like that. It doesn't have all that sappy stuff in it.
Right.
So I think if you can buy anything if you want. Like I get this wood from New Zealand.
I'm from Honey
No,
Grove.
I said I get a wood from New Zealand that's 50,000 years old. It was buried in a bog in New Zealand. Now they're digging up the logs. They're like redwood trees. They dig up these logs, and the trees not available anymore. But they're pulling up this old 50,000 from before the Ice Age, and they're slicing them up and drying them out. And it's really interesting stuff. It's very beautiful stuff. But I mean, there's some unique woods out there.
Yeah, look, like the sinker cypress, they're reddish, it's tight grain,
Yes.
real good to get carved, and it's beautiful wood.
That means it's been at the bottom of the lake, Mississippi
bottom.
Lake for 100 years.
well, Mississippi and down the bayous,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we have a lot of, they dig
Secret.
them up, that's all they do, you know.
Yeah, so they go down, they almost go down with snorkeling gear and put buoys and raise them up,
Right.
don't they? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pull them up.
Where do you get your woods from? What kind of things? Do you carve pine or do you like basswood?
Just anything I can find laying out. There's a lot of times when I'm carving my little tree gnomes or wind spirit, whatever you want to call them, it's a lot of times like, oh, if we go on vacation somewhere, I always look for something carved.
Me too, yeah,
It's really
right,
hard.
yeah.
You know, and
Maple's hard.
American persimmon's really hard. Just whatever I can find locally, and I try to get something that's got unique features in it, maybe,
Right.
you know, and use that as maybe for a nose. Or,
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just, I don't know. Sometimes I look at it for 2 or 3 years and say, hey, wait, I need to do this or that, you know. And it's just whatever I can find locally, you know, usually. I don't have access, like I say, I don't have access to a whole lot of different woods over there in central Texas, you know.
They have trees over
Cedar
there?
or oak. In central Texas, there's a few oak trees and cedars, you know.
See, yeah.
I found a good mesquite lamb here a while back. You know, I don't know, some of those woods are kind of
Yeah.
hard to deal with, hard to
Yeah.
find, you know, exactly what you need.
Think about shade.
Well, that's why most of my stuff is small
Just a little bit,
stuff.
but we don't want to break it.
How about black walnut and magnolia?
But
I got none
after
of
that, it's kind of blocky.
One man carved some magnolia I've seen, which is nice, and must be good carving wood, because he would use a
bought
knife.
some bowls from, there's a man right there, not too far from where I live. He carves bowls, you know.
But yeah, right, yeah, I've seen that too.
Now, in fact, my bowl is, a black walnut tree here in Natchitoches was made out of it.
Mhm.
Still got the bark on it.
Right, yeah, I've seen some here too,
And the
yes.
magnolia.
Yeah.
I've seen something, I've seen that wood.
Yeah, he goes to
It
the
is beautiful.
pecan festival and the different
Yeah.
festivals he's there. I have his card, he does all the bows.
I haven't either, but I've seen it.
And you know what's nice, when carvers found some spalted wood,
Oh.
you know, you find a piece hard enough where you can carve, those look good. I really love those, you know, different designs, lines on them, you know. I love something like that, spalted.
I use a lot of pecan.
You do?
Yeah. It carves pretty good. It's
Yeah,
hard, but
you
you know, the grain is pretty uniform.
Well,
you know,
we had a tree cut down, and I saved a block, and I still have it. I've been having it for years and years, but I haven't. I've carved teak and, like I say, mahogany, and just. But I've never tried a piece of pecan yet.
Here's an interesting thing you just brought to mind. You said you had this piece of wood for years and years. Now, where do you keep it? In your garage? Out in that
Yeah.
shed?
Well.
Not in your house.
We have it
But
downstairs.
is it
You
air
know, I
conditioned?
keep it in the air.
It's not air conditioned.
No.
When I was reading about this chip carving, they were talking about how if you have your wood in an air conditioned room, that it dries out. And dry wood is harder to carve than moist wood. So even if I was working on this platter and it started to feel like it was cracking or chipping out of things, I put it in a bag with a sponge in a bowl of water for a couple of days and basically steamed it, not really steam, but just to get the moisture level higher than whatever you might have in Texas, for example. It's so dry. And a little bit softer, it's going to carve and give like the soft butter. It's not going to be cracky and crumbly. It's an interesting tip, which I've been doing for years. I never, until I read this book last month. You know, it's these little tips. So for you in Texas, it might be important.
Yeah.
you know, and one technique guy told me one time, carving hard wood, he said, take alcohol and water, mix 50-50. And so, you know, just, you know, put wood in it, let it set for a few minutes, and it's soft as
That's
dust.
the same
But what I found out is if I stay away for a couple of days and it dries, I go back, that wood's even harder than what it was.
Oh, really?
Because I think that alcohol
Yeah.
is drying the moisture
It dries it out,
of
yeah, just like,
you know,
like
so
the
you have to let it
engine.
sit longer in your alcohol water mixture to get it to where you can carve it again. But I mean, I'm going, gosh, why is this so hard? It wasn't that hard. What's the alcohol drying the moisture out?
Yes. Now, when I was in Austria, they were carving little tiny statues, you know, for the tourists, and very detailed saints and things. And they were doing it out of maple, which is a very hard wood.
Yeah.
But they constantly were dipping it and carving it. They kept it wet the whole time. So they're carving it. The little ladies would carve it, and then they dip it in the water. They carve it. They just kept going because once it dried out, like you said, it's worse. Yeah.
Little spray bottles work real well.
Yeah.
There's a mill down in Provençal. I don't know if you've ever been to
No.
that mill. It's Davis wood yarn or whatever it's called, but he does supply some people with cypress.
Oh.
Yes, he does. There's a man that I buy chairs from down there for your back porch and so on like that, and he makes them out of cypress wood. Y'all may know him.
I have a friend with a portable sawmill. So it's
It's a
a
sawmill.
giant bandsaw on wheels that he can tape to a tree and
Yeah.
slice it up. So he gets some unusual things. I've worked on ginkgo biloba and magnolia, some interesting trees just because I don't have to buy it. I got a
Yeah, that's
friend,
great,
you know.
yeah. That's
Can I
good.
go back and ask him a question? When we were talking about that Tupelo gun and the top's hard and the bottom's, what kind of furniture do they make from the top?
I really don't know. Now, I've used Tupelo. I have a friend, I said, he's carved everything you can think of out of Tupelo. But I read where the top part is used for fine furniture. You know, these wood magazine, art magazines.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Yeah, like one man was saying, you know, he
Really
bought
sturdy
it.
furniture.
But you got to make sure it's a good piece, you know. Like this man, he has a large inventory, and he sells to all these wood carvers, and they're good wood, you know, for his got good reputation.
Have you heard of ironwood?
Yes, ma'am. In New Mexico and Arizona and Mexico, the reddish, it's reddish.
I don't know. I was in Pennsylvania. My sister lived there and I went to visit her. And her husband was complaining about that ironwood. But I thought, and he was clearing off some property. And I thought, oh, that sure is pretty wood.
It is reddish.
Beautiful wood.
Yeah.
He said, oh, you can't cut that. Said it's too hard. He didn't have anything good to say about it.
It's really hard, extremely hard.
But I brought a piece home. It's probably 4 to 6 feet long. What I could get in a motorhome, you know, and get away with it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
I haven't done anything with it, but I still have.
Yeah, that was in Arizona. I got a piece from the firewood. I never try to really carve it because it's heavy. You know, it's hard. But it's a beautiful wood. But out of Mexico, you see these and all kind of wood carvings, and some use machine. At one time, I could tell the difference. If it was machine made or handmade. You know, there's a difference. But they sell a lot of those in shops for souvenirs. You know, but sometimes you can get one that's handmade, which is if you like.
You know, even when you're using those power tools, though, you want to come back and take a knife and come back and shave all that fuzzy because it's so fuzzy.
Right.
Now, and they have these tools in the factories in Austria, where they would take one. It's called a pentagram, and there's the tool, and then they would set up 18 blocks of wood, and the pattern would ride along that thing and carve a whole bunch at one time.
Yeah.
To a rough stage only. And then after the rough stage, then the carvers would sit there and with their little knives clean it up to make it look like it was all hand carved.
Yeah.
But they basically roughed it out in those are what the tourists would buy. Is,
Yeah, because
they're making hundreds of them.
yeah, because you see in these shops, you know, where they have any wood, you know, and say there's no way somebody's gonna you know, make something like this by hand and sell it for $5 or $10.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Same, yeah, unless they're from China.
Yeah, a lot of it's done by machine.
I have a great grandson that's gonna be 9 years old tomorrow. He's kind of interested in some of the, I did this cross necklace and what I did. Some pieces of wood. He likes, but, and he's kind of leading me to believe he's got an artistic mind. How would I help him? How would I help
Give him that.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Give him that.
I'm gonna buy me a whole stack of that.
But
And I have thought about taking him to classes.
I would.
oh yes,
You'll find out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Better he should find out sooner, and if he doesn't like
If
it,
his mother would let me take him, afraid she'd cut his finger, you know, and I would gonna cut his finger.
you gotta learn. You know, you cut your finger, it's all right.
Yeah, your knife has to be sharp, and you'll cut your finger. It has to be sharp, and you'll.
But I just think it's so fascinating.
It is.
There was this old man. He did fork art. He would take a hatchet, make statues of liberty, and his things would sell too. And he'd make an alligator goldfish, you know, just kind of round like this, you know, and hardly anything to it, and then 4 legs, you know, fins. I mean, fins out.
I've seen those carvings in Galveston after when those trees was blown away, and then they had someone, I don't know, they said.
I heard about that. I haven't seen it, but I heard about it.
Louisiana, I think they said, somebody to come over and carve those stumps. And you just drive through there and see it. That's the most beautiful work I've ever seen in my life.
In Santa Fe, they were going to cut these trees. They were going bad, and they had like 2 or 3 brothers. They carved dolphins, angels out of them, you know, the full size. That was neat. They were going to get away. Right, birds. Yeah, right.
They have birds. They
Right.
have 2 or 3 birds carved on a limb, and then they got a dog leaning up, looks like it's leaning up against the fence. That would be just
Yeah.
big.
You know, yeah, these were, well, they do a lot of chainsaw carving, but they finish the eyes, you know, with regular small tools, you know, like the angels. That was
I can't
neat.
imagine chainsaw. They say it's called chainsaw. I can't even imagine that.
Well, that's just, it's against scale.
Yeah,
It's
scale.
I just can't even.
I use a chainsaw that it's only this big. It's on a grinder tool, so the grinder has a chainsaw blade, and so you can really take out a lot of, like with the carousel animals, rough it up. But that's just shaping. That just gives you this first shape. You still have to go back and carve the detail and all that.
But
I have got a Dremel machine, and I have a lot.
There's a blade that you want. It's called a Kutzall. Kutzal. It cuts all, and it's very coarse. It looks like this microphone. It's got little tiny. It's like metallic Velcro on it, little hooks, and it doesn't clog up. It doesn't get all junky. It just gives you a nice cut.
I bought a wood blade from Sears, a Craftsman, years ago, 37-inch out. You turn it around, turn the motor around, and it will do a 14-inch bolt.
Oh.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I have made one.
in Tennessee, Brasstown, they have wood turning, and they make these huge bowls.
Yes.
Those are beautiful.
I had all kinds of dreams, you know, when I retired, you know?
Yeah, me too.
I think we're finished here, ladies.
Yeah, I have metal, clay, beads, everything I don't, but I stick to that.
Yeah.
You trying to consent that?
And I have got 7 great-grandsons,
The lady I went
one
to the
little
market.
great-granddaughter,
Have fun.
4
Irish
granddaughters.
I'll just
None
about
of them is interested.
cut yourself.
No.
That little 9-year-old great-grandson is
There's
the
2 of them.
closest.
But that's true. I know what you mean. They're not into it. They're not
I
into it.
have got all of these tools. I don't know what they're called, but I know what they do. That is really amazing, you know, that they just don't have the income.
No,
That's right.
and there's, I'll get up in the morning. I want to grab my knife and start carving. Oh, I just love it.
That's where I got mine, was from my mother, my carving thoughts and what came from my mother. And then when I had the opportunity just then, and it had, I think it was in 2000, he said, we're having carving classes at church. Why don't you come back? Well, I was doing on that city, I sit with this lady, 7 on and 7 on.
Yeah, I've done that too, yeah.
And so I was sitting with this lady and taking her. And this man said, why don't you come and carve with us? And I said, I would love to. He said, bring that. Bring that. And so one night I decided, I said, hey, we're going to go carving. Yeah, we went over one night. And I
Play drum and sing. Maybe that
and
much
that was in
band.
Dallas, Texas.
About an hour.
I worked for this handicap organization too. They would allow me to carve. You know, usually they tell everybody, no, you have to stay and you can't do this or that. But they would allow me to carve. And I would carve. I get back home and start carving.